My name is Kathleen Bates, and I'm the program manager of a statewide youth tobacco prevention program. It's called Say What, and it's housed at the Texas School Safety Center at Texas State University. What this movement is doing is it is empowering so many young people to take a stand against an industry that has lied to us for decades. They have manipulated us into thinking that we need their products in order to be successful, in order to live a happy life. And that's what pisses me off the most, is that I feel like there's an industry that's trying to pull one over on me and everyone else in the country, and it makes me mad. And I kind of just want to draw back the curtain, and I want people to see that these things are dangerous. They can kill you. Though the use of tobacco has been documented for thousands of years, and all tobacco products derive from the tobacco plant, which has grown naturally in this country for centuries. And there are records that show that Native Americans gifted Columbus with the tobacco plant, and then Columbus took it back to Europe, and then it exploded in Europe. European settlers grew the plant as crops, and it was a great source of export for the economy. I mean, it was the highest valued crop at the time. It was the cash crop. I mean, in what I know in my research, the tobacco plant was valued more than a man's wife. That alone tells you quite a bit right there. But if you fast forward to the late 19th century and we see this explosion of tobacco use, it all stems from one product in particular, and that's the manufactured cigarette. So cigarettes have been around for a long time, but they were more known as like rolled tobacco because it was rolled by hand. But it's in 1880 that James Bonsack invents a cigarette rolling machine that produces 210 cigarettes a minute compared to the 4 by hand in 1 minute. That is significant, and that is a game changer in how we see this shift in tobacco use, tobacco product use, to cigarettes becoming widespread. And so when you think about tobacco, 9 times out of 10 you think about cigarettes, and you forget about all of the other tobacco products. So this cigarette is kind of like the emblem, I guess you could say, of tobacco. The marketing strategies that were used, it was like the wild, wild west. I mean, they did whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. There was no law and order to what they were doing. Whatever they created, they did. Whoever they wanted to target, they did. They didn't care. Everyone is on the board when it comes to who they want to market to. And then the tobacco industry starts targeting youth because they're realizing that all of their customers are dying from their products, and they have got to replace their customers or they're not going to make any money and they're going to go out of business. They're designing their products, they're designing their stores after what is popular. It's technology, it's technological devices, it's accessories. And so technology has been consistent, and it will always be consistent. And as technology evolves and grows, products are going to evolve and grow. Stuff look like iPhones and iPods and USB, right? Because a Juul looks like a USB. You can get all kinds of vape products that look like everyday items, and those are the vape pod devices. And it's Juul that really launched that for everybody to copy and to create other devices that look like these vape pod devices. And it's the vape pod devices that have the most concern because of the nicotine salts, because of the nicotine level, and because of the design. A lot of young people have gravitated towards it. That's why there's all kinds of bans on flavorings and the dangers of flavorings. They'll always use technology as an advantage. They'll always see what is trending, what is popular, and unfortunately that is always going to coincide with youth and young adults, because youth and young adults really do help set trends.
My full name is Dalton Head. I'm the manager of this location for Create a Sig, and for a while I've noticed that one of their main drives is honestly just to try to help people. One of their big things is trying to help people curb addiction and stuff like that, and through doing so we have access to a lot of different things that will help them do just that. I mean, whenever it comes to any of the vape liquids themselves, we have multiple different nicotine levels that people can choose from to decide what they want to be at, what they want to start with, and where they want to end up to. So whenever you use a vape itself, it doesn't linger on anything. It's not going to linger in the room. It's not going to have that distinct, oh, I know what you were doing aspect to it. So it gives people a lot more access to a freedom over their own life. You can go you can go hit a vape in a bathroom and kind of curb your addiction in that aspect. You can't do that with a cigarette. So based on that alone, you're already getting more access, but then having the availability of nicotine control is the other big thing behind it. It gives them the chance to basically go down on the nicotine level. They can choose if they want to stay where they're at, or they can choose to get off of it. It's something that gives them full access, opposed to being restricted to a long or a short cigarette. Being able to actually choose what strength that you're using, opposed to just kind of assuming based on the pack that you bought, is a big help. I mean, dude, it's no secret that improper use of any sort of chemical can be detrimental to your health. Pretty much everything that I sell, though, it comes with a warning label very clearly on the front of it that basically states what it could cause. So I'm not going to put a say towards what people should or shouldn't do with their own lives. However, if they have any sort of confusion or they don't understand what they're doing, I'm definitely going to put my best foot forward to let them understand what they might want to be using. And I'm not going to suggest to someone who's not a user to start using. However, if they're already in the position of they know what they want to get into, I'm not going to tell them to not do it. Remember that nicotine itself is going to be dual addictive. So there's going to be a mental aspect of addictivity, and there's also a physical aspect of addictivity. A lot of people can overcome one or the other. Whenever you pair those two things together, it becomes a very addictive substance, where it is, you have your baseline of feeling calm, and then if you get taken away from nicotine and you're a nicotine user, you can start to feel very aggravated very easily. So I think for a lot of people, trying to recognize those signs is what the addiction is, or to be able to overcome it, essentially, is to recognize those signs. But I think the true addictive side of it is when you don't recognize that's what's causing it. If you're unaware of how addiction works, then you can easily become addicted. Like, have people be a little bit more educated before they just decide to start using something. A lot of this stuff, again, we don't hide behind the fact that it's addictive. It's up in front and like, hey, like, this is something that will grab onto you if you don't know what you're doing. So keep that in mind. Don't just use something because somebody said it'd be like nice to use. Don't just assume that that'll be something fun for a time being, because some of this stuff isn't you try it once and you're fine. And that was a nice little thing to try out. It's, oh, I tried it once, I enjoyed it, why not try it again, and then again, and then again, and then you end up into a point of where you are literally buying something that you once thought was, maybe you didn't even associate with it before, and now you catch yourself, oh, I just need to buy one more bottle, and then I'll stop then.
The biggest concern around e-cigarettes, and why there's been a lot of conversation regarding nicotine addiction from vaping in youth, is that the level of nicotine content is significantly higher than a cigarette. One Juul pod has the same amount of nicotine as one pack of cigarettes. When you think about someone who smokes, they don't just shove the whole pack in their mouth and light all 20 up and smoke them. No, nobody does. No, people don't do that. But sitting there and sucking on a puff bar or like any other vape pen, they can be ingesting and inhaling a whole pack of cigarettes worth of nicotine in one sitting, depending on how significant their addiction is. That's very, very dangerous. But the nicotine level, it is so high, it is so dangerous, it is so potent. It's at higher levels than we've ever seen before. And the problem with that is that all of these other vape companies are basically ripping off Juul, and they're using what they did in designing their own products. They're using nicotine salts in their formula, in their chemistry, and it's incredibly dangerous because we don't really know a lot of long-term mental effects of using such a high nicotine concentration. I mean, a person could vape for 3 months and experience issues. It all comes down to how everybody's chemistry makeup is and how that particular product is going to interact with their body and everything else that's around their environment. Those are things that are important to consider. But when you have a 14-year-old who died from an e-cigarette, I don't really think we need to know what are the long-term health effects, because the short-term effect is that you could die. When you pass at 14, how can you measure what long-term health effects are going to be when you made it to 14? Or when you've only been vaping for less than a year and you're already experiencing significant health complications and you need to be on a ventilator and you're in the hospital for weeks, you're in the ICU. And that's short-term? I think what's important when it comes to resolving these issues of addiction and health effects is the more you know, the more power that you have. It just takes taking some time, doing some research, reaching out to people, finding people of like-mindedness, and taking a stand and using your voice. So your voice, it's the best tool that you have, and it's free.